Thank you, officer. I'll review these immediately.
Let me tell you something, people. The courtroom gasped before that sound even fully registered. His hand came down fast, a sharp crack slicing through the silence as his wife's head snapped to the side. Chairs scraped. Someone shouted, but I did not move. My eyes alone froze the entire room. The husband smirked as if daring the world to challenge him. But what I said next, no one was prepared for it. But before we get into it, tell me, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments and hit subscribe for more shocking courtroom moments. The echo of that slap still trembles in the air when the bailiff takes a sharp step forward, but I lift one hand, stopping him without saying a word. The room freezes, suspended between the violence that happened and the justice that has not yet begun. The camera lingers on the husband first, his hand still hangs in the air, fingers curled as if he has not fully decided whether the slap is over. That smirk on his face, it's not confidence, it's ownership. A man who believes the world belongs to him simply because no one has taken it away yet. I study him with a stillness sharper than any outburst. I do not blink. I do not breathe loudly. I simply look. The kind of look that makes deception feel smaller, pettier, and suddenly visible to everyone watching. Step forward, I say, my voice measured. He obeys, but not out of respect. His stride is casual, arrogant, the walk of a man who thinks rules are suggestions and consequences are myths. He glances toward the audience as if expecting applause. Instead, he finds faces frozen in disbelief, a collective breath held tight. Behind him, his wife touches her cheek, not to comfort the pain, but to confirm it happened. Her hand trembles just barely, the kind of tremble only people who have learned to hide everything can feel. Her eyes stay low, shoulders small, story buried. I shift my gaze toward her. Ma'am, I say softly, are you hurt? The wife straightens. I am fine, she says too quickly, too rehearsed. The courtroom feels that answer. It lands with the weight of 1,000 untold nights. The husband cuts in before I can speak. She is fine, he declares, confidence rolling off him like heat. She gets emotional. I raise my hand again. The gesture slices through his sentence like a blade. You do not speak for her. For the first time, his smirk falters, even if only for a second. My eyes return to the wife. Has he done this before? The question floats across the courtroom like a spotlight. It finds the wife's face, and something inside her tightens. An invisible string pulling memories she thought were buried. She opens her mouth. Nothing comes out. The silence is not empty. It is terrified. The husband leans forward, voice sharp. Judge, you are making this bigger than it is. Enough, I say, my tone a quiet verdict of its own. You have had your moment. I nod to the clerk. A folder lands on my desk, thick, worn, and labeled with a date neither spouse recognizes. I place a hand on it. Before we go any further, I say, my eyes locking onto the wife's, I want to know what you were afraid to say. The wife swallows, her lips part again. This time, a single word forms, but before she speaks it, the courtroom door clicks open behind her. The door's soft click steals the word from her lips. She startles, breath catching halfway between fear and instinct, as if any sound behind her might become another reason to stay silent. A bailiff steps inside, closing the door quietly behind him. The interruption is small, but the effect is enormous. The wife's shoulders stiffen, her voice collapsing inward before it ever forms. I notice immediately the way trauma reacts faster than thought. Ma'am, I say gently, you were about to answer. The wife nods once, barely. Her throat works, trying to push a word up through years of swallowed truth, but the sound that escapes is faint, cracked, a whisper worn thin by habit. Yes, she breathes. The courtroom exhales, collectively, the first honest word of the case, trembling, but alive. The husband reacts instantly. He steps forward as if her truth is an affront. Judge, she is confused. She does this. She dramatizes everything. I turn my head slowly. The look I give him could freeze fire. What you will not do, I say, is interrupt the first honest moment your wife has spoken today. He opens his mouth again, but something in my eyes cauterizes the words before they reach daylight. His jaw shuts with a quiet click, frustration simmering beneath his skin. The wife glances at him, the movement small and automatic, like checking whether she has learned to fear. Her shoulders shrink again. I notice that too. My voice softens, Has he done this before? The question returns heavier now, wrapped in the weight of that single whispered yes. The wife inhales. The air shakes inside her. She looks down at her hands, clasped tight, knuckles pale, then slowly lifts her gaze toward me, not toward her husband. I do not know when it started, she says, voice trembling. It was always little things at first. Her husband scoffs loudly, throwing his hands up. Oh, here we go, sir. My tone slices the air clean. One more sound and you will be removed from this courtroom. Do you understand me? The smirk returns, but weaker now. I understand, he mutters. His wife continues, words spilling in fragile pieces. He gets angry, but he says it is my fault, so I try harder, stay quieter. She swallows, but it keeps getting worse. The audience shifts uneasy. Even the fluorescent lights seem to dim under the truth of her words. I lean back, fingers tapping the folder from earlier, the one with dates neither spouse recognized. Then I signal to the bailiff, bring me the documents. A stack of papers is placed before me, thick with reports. I lift the first page. Ma'am, I say to the wife, someone filed a statement about your husband months ago. The wife blinks, confusion flickering. The husband's smirk shatters. I look directly at him. Tell me, sir, why does your mother-in-law describe you as dangerous? The husband's smirk collapses. The instant I say the words mother-in-law, his eyes flicker, darting between me and the folder, as if truth itself has suddenly become a living thing in the room. I lift the folder with deliberate calm, my fingers pressing against its worn edges. The courtroom leans closer, the air tightening around the husband like invisible wire. The wife stares at the label on the folder, handwritten, slightly slanted, and recognition flashes through her eyes. This, I begin, was filed 3 months ago. The husband shifts his weight, trying to reclaim confidence like a suit that no longer fits. He clears his throat. She exaggerates. Her mother has always been dramatic. The wife looks at him slowly, painfully, as if seeing the old script he always used. I open the folder. The papers inside rustle like whispers from a past he thought he buried. Your mother-in-law, I say, eyes moving down the page, reported escalating anger, manipulation, and physical intimidation. The words land heavy. The wife's breath catches. The husband stiffens, hands curling into fists against his sides. He forces a laugh, but it comes out thin, brittle. Of course, she did. She never liked me. She is meddling, that is all. This is a personal attack. I look up unblinking. She included dates, incidents, descriptions, and I flipped to the next page, a warning that she feared for her daughter's safety. The wife's fingers rise to her mouth before she can stop them, as if trying to keep a memory from escaping. The husband shakes his head, jaw tight. She lies, he says. You do not know that woman. I do not need to know her, I reply. I only need to read her words and observe your behavior today. A quiet murmur ripples through the audience. I continue. There was also a request for this information to remain confidential. She feared retaliation. My eyes lock on him. Sir, do you retaliate when you feel challenged? He hesitates. A fraction of a second, but enough. And I see it. The wife sees it. The courtroom sees it. His voice rises defensively. I do not retaliate. I get frustrated when people lie about me. Is that why you struck your wife today? I ask calmly. The question lands like a gavel with no sound, a blow he cannot deflect. He steps forward, anger boiling beneath his words. She provoked me. She always provokes. Stop. My command slices through the air. The room falls silent again. Even the fluorescent lights seem to dim under the weight of my authority. I turn another page in the folder. This one newer, clipped to the front with a small, metal fastener. My eyes narrow. This statement, I say slowly, was not written by your mother-in-law. The husband's breath stutters. Then, who wrote it? I hold the page closer to the light, reading the signature. Your neighbor, I say. The one you swore never spoke to your wife. He blinks at the word neighbor, like it burns. His jaw tightens. His composure thins. For the first time, the husband looks less like a man in control and more like someone cornered by a truth he did not expect to chase him into this room. I lift the page between 2 fingers, holding it up as if unveiling a mirror he has spent years avoiding. The handwriting sprawled across it is unmistakably firm, deliberate, the writing of someone who took their time to report something they could no longer ignore. You claimed, I say, voice steady, that none of your neighbors ever spoke to your wife. They did not. He snaps instantly. Too instantly. They keep to themselves. I lowered the page slowly, eyes never leaving him. Then why does this statement describe multiple occasions when the neighbor overheard raised voices, crashing objects, crying, and your voice telling your wife she should be grateful anyone put up with her? A hush washes through the courtroom. The wife's eyes close, long lashes trembling. The memory she avoids flickers across her expression, a brittle truth she never wanted witnessed by strangers. The husband's nostrils flare. That neighbor hates me. He, as always, I interrupt, my tone a controlled blade, hates you enough to risk legal consequences for filing false reports. I tap the signature line. Because these statements are sworn, he looks away. A tiny gesture, a fatal one. I turn to the wife. Ma'am, were you aware he filed this on your behalf? The wife shakes her head softly. No, I never told anyone. My gaze sharpens. Sometimes victims do not have to speak for the truth to find them. The husband scoffs, but the sound is hollow now, a brittle echo of earlier arrogance. You are all believing lies, he protests. People twist things. They exaggerate. Funny, I say, turning one more page, that every exaggeration paints you the same. I lay out 3 pages in a row, each filled with different handwriting, but the same story. Escalating temper, fear in the home, nights the wife slept elsewhere after shouting matches. The husband's face cracks, a fissure running diagonally across his once perfect smirk. His eyes dart to his wife, searching for her usual silence, but she does not meet his gaze this time. She stares at the table, her hand resting on the spot where the folder sits, as if steadying herself against the weight of years. I lean forward. Sir, this is no longer about you defending your pride. This is about evidence. I tap the final page. A newer document marked video submission. The husband's breath hitches. Someone sent in footage. I continue. Footage recorded from outside your home. His skin pales. I close the folder with a soft, lethal thud. Tell me, sir, what do you think we are about to see? The lights dim without warning, and the room inhales as one. The monitor flickers to life, casting a cold blue glow across the husband's face. His fists clench, not in anger this time, but in something far quieter. Fear. I lean back in my chair, hands folded, gaze steady as the screen brightens. The courtroom settles into a heavy silence, the kind that feels like the moment before a storm breaks open. The husband shifts his stance again, a restless animal sensing danger. I do not know what that is, he mutters, but the tremor in his voice betrays him. I tilt my head. We will let the footage speak for itself. The bailiff presses play. The camera angle is shaky, handheld, but steady enough to capture the truth. The exterior of a modest suburban home, porch light glowing, night air still. The audio crackles softly until a voice slices through the static. His voice. You never listen. You do nothing but complain. The husband flinches, as if the sound punched him. He forces a sneer. This is taken out of context. You cannot just. I raise a hand. The footage rolls on. A thud. A sharp cry. His voice, again, hard slicing, unmistakable. You should be grateful anyone puts up with you. The wife stiffens in her seat, blinking rapidly, as if trying to keep memory from spilling out of her eyes. A few audience members cover their mouths. Even the cameras seem to steady themselves, as though bracing for what comes next. The husband's breathing becomes uneven. He wipes his palms on his jeans, eyes darting toward the exit, calculating escape where none exists. Pause it, I say. The screen freezes on a still image, his silhouette in the doorway, imposing, unmistakably aggressive. The freeze frame makes it worse, like catching violence in a single breath. My gaze narrows. Sir, is that your voice? He hesitates, a small hesitation. But in this courtroom, small hesitations are earthquakes. He swallows. It sounds like me, but it was your voice. I press. His eyes shift, his throat tightens. The answer drips out slowly, unwillingly. Yes. The word hangs in the air like a fragile confession, but he adds sharply, trying to grab control again. You do not understand what she does to push me. My palm strikes the bench, not loud, but final. No, we are not blaming your wife for your behavior. Not here. The wife lowers her eyes, tears threatening at the edges, her hands clasped together in her lap, knuckles paling as though holding herself together is a full-time job. I nod to the bailiff resume. The footage continues. No physical violence shown, but emotional aggression so thick the courtroom can feel it like humidity against skin. His voice escalating, hers shrinking. Then another sound, a door slamming, a muffled sob. I lift a hand. Pause. The screen freezes again. I turn to him, voice still wrapped in calm. Now that we have heard the truth, I say, tell me, sir, what exactly were you hoping this video would prove? He opens his mouth to deny everything, but the moment he speaks, the courtroom speakers catch it first. His own voice, sharp and undeniable, echoing from the frozen frame behind him. The recorded version of him and the living version of him collide in the space between sound and silence. For a heartbeat, the courtroom becomes an arena where truth echoes louder than ego. That, he stammers, gesturing wildly toward the monitor. That is not what it sounds like. I arch an eyebrow. It sounds like exactly what it is. His jaw tightens. You do not understand. She provokes me. The wife flinches before he finishes the sentence. The motion is small, almost imperceptible, but the entire courtroom sees it. Trauma learned in shadows, exposed under fluorescent lights. I see it too, and I strike with precision. You see what just happened? I ask, voice steady, almost quiet. Your wife reacted to your tone before you even finished speaking. That is not provocation. That is fear. The husband scoffs, frustration boiling under his skin. Fear. She is dramatic. She always plays the victim. That is enough. My voice slices cleanly through his words. What we are dealing with is a pattern, and patterns do not lie. I pick up the remote and rewind the footage by a few seconds. On the screen, his voice booms again. You should be grateful anyone puts up with you. He can hear the venom now. Not justified, not reasonable, just cruel. His own eyes flicker, betraying something he never expected to feel here. Recognition. No, he whispers as though trying to convince himself. I did not mean it like that. The wife's voice breaks softly into the space. You say it all the time. He freezes. She does not look at him. She stares straight ahead, hands clasped tightly, as though finally refusing to remain a shadow in her own story. When you came home angry, she continues, voice trembling but clear. I stopped speaking. I stopped asking questions. I tried to make everything perfect, but nothing made it better. The husband shifts, breathing uneven. I was stressed. Work was. Stress does not give you the right to tear someone down. I interrupt. My tone is calm, but the calmness is a warning. He opens his mouth, but no words come out this time. Silence clings to him like consequence. And before you blame your job, I add, remember, jobs do not create abusers. They only expose who someone already is when they are unchecked. His shoulders slump. Something inside him falters. Not the anger, not yet, but the illusion of control he clung to so tightly. I fold my hands. This courtroom is not about excuses. It is about accountability. The wife exhales shakily, a release years overdue. The husband looks at her, really looks at her for the first time today. There is no smirk now, only fear of what comes next. I lean forward, and accountability, I say, begins with admitting the truth you keep running from. I reach for a second folder thicker than the first. Let us talk, I say, eyes piercing him, about the nights your neighbors did not report, but still heard. If you were sitting in that courtroom, would you stay silent or finally speak up? His confidence fractures in real time. Every page I turn feels like another mirror, forcing him to confront the reflection he has spent years avoiding. The second folder rests on my bench like a quiet threat, thicker, heavier, less forgiving. I open it slowly, not for dramatic effect, but because truth deserves precision. Sir, I begin, flipping to the first page. You claim these neighbors are liars, exaggerators. He nods quickly. Too quickly. Yes, exactly. They twist things. I look up, eyes steady. Interesting then, that they all describe the same pattern. I lay out 3 sheets side by side. Different handwriting, different dates, same story. Raised voices, objects thrown, a woman crying, a man insisting he is the victim. The husband stiffens, arms crossing defensively over his chest. People hear things wrong. Walls echo. You cannot trust. Walls echo. I repeat softly, but they do not invent stories. The wife's breathing grows shallow. He stares at the second folder like it is a verdict already written. The weight of it bends his posture just slightly. Enough for the courtroom to sense the first true crumble of a man who believed patterns could stay hidden forever. I rest my fingertips on the folder's edge. I do not open it immediately. I let silence breathe over the room, letting anticipation settle into the floorboards. The husband shifts again, that restless pattern returning, shoulders lifting, jaw clenching, eyes flicking from his wife to me and back again. His own body testifies before any evidence does. Sir, I begin, voice low and controlled. Anger may be loud, but patterns whisper. He frowns, What is that supposed to mean? That everyone in this room can see the story you have tried so hard to deny. I opened the folder. Inside, pages filled with notes, dates, observations from neighbors, the mail carrier, even a delivery driver who reported yelling inside the home on multiple occasions. This is ridiculous, the husband snaps, reaching out as if he has the right to snatch the truth away. I lift a hand, stopping him cold. You do not touch evidence. The wife inhales sharply, shrinking back instinctively from her husband's sudden movement. I notice. The audience notices. The husband notices too because guilt flickers in his eyes before he can hide it. I pull out a particular sheet. This entry, I read, is from someone who walked past your home on an early morning and heard crying. Crying that stopped abruptly when a male voice demanded silence. The husband's voice rises. You are taking strangers' words over mine. No, I reply calm and cutting. I am taking everyone's words except yours, because yours changed to ease. His face reddens. I only get angry because she never listens. A tremble runs through the wife at that familiar refrain. I turn my gaze to her. Ma'am, would you describe what happens when he gets angry? The wife's fingers knit together. Her voice emerges like a fragile thread. I try to stay calm. I try to make him calm. I apologize even when I do not know what I did. And does it help? I ask gently. The wife shakes her head, eyes glistening. No, he gets louder, and I get smaller. She swallows. I thought it was my fault. That sentence lands harder than the slap itself. Something shifts in the courtroom's air, a tightening sympathy for her, a darkening shadow over him. The husband snaps. So now I am a monster because she is sensitive. I close the folder, the sound soft but decisive. You are not a monster, sir, but you are a man whose behavior has escalated. And escalation, I add, leaning forward, never ends where someone thinks it will. His jaw locks. The smirk is gone now. All that remains is tension, stretched thin and breaking. I fold my hands. Let us talk about March 14th. The wife's entire body goes still. My eyes narrow. What happened that night? Your neighbor wrote, I heard something I never want to hear again. His denial hits the walls like shrapnel, loud, sharp, frantic. But the louder he gets, the smaller he looks. And everyone in the room senses it. This is not confidence anymore. This is panic wearing its old costume. I do not raise my voice. I do not need to. I simply adjust my glasses. A small, deliberate motion that pulls the courtroom into stillness. Let us review what you just said, I begin, because your words are fighting each other. He bristles. My words are fine. No, I reply. They are unraveling. I turn to the clerk. Read back his last statement. The clerk does. The husband's own voice fills the courtroom. Angry, inconsistent, unraveling. His face reddens as the transcript exposes the contradictions he tried to bury inside noise. That is not what I meant, he snaps. I lean forward. Then what did you mean when you admitted you knew exactly where your wife went on March 14th after insisting you never followed her? The breath leaves his lungs as if someone struck him. His posture falters, knees softening just enough for the audience to notice. I did not say that, he stammers. You did, I reply calmly, very clearly. The wife sits rigid, eyes wide but unblinking. She is hearing pieces of her own past for the first time, pieces she never realized he had stitched together behind her back. You followed her, I say softly. Didn't you? His hands twitched. I was worried. No, I correct. You were controlling. There is a difference. A few audience members shift uncomfortably. The room feels smaller now, as though walls quietly inch closer around him. His breath grows erratic. She was leaving. She always threatens to leave. The words burst out of him, raw and unfiltered. The wife flinches at the admission. A pin could fall in the silence that follows. My expression remains unreadable, but my voice lowers to a tone no one dares interrupt. So, you admit she tried to leave. He realizes too late what he has said. A flicker of terror flashes through his eyes, the kind that comes when someone finally hears their own truth reflected back with clarity. I did not mean, he sputters. Sir, I say quietly, your story is no longer cracking. It is collapsing. His breathing quickens. His hands tremble, gripping the edge of the podium like it is the last solid thing in his world. His voice slips out thinner now, stripped of arrogance. She always makes me the bad guy, he whispers. No, I respond. Your actions do that. The wife's eyes glisten, not with fresh fear, but with a slow forming recognition. The man standing before her is not powerful. He is unraveling. The husband looks at her, really looks, and something in his expression fractures. A realization, a loss, a quiet, terrified understanding of what he is becoming. His voice cracks, splintering in the open. I do not want to lose her, he says, but his wife's face tells him he already has. Do you think remorse should erase guilt? Or does justice demand accountability, no matter what someone feels? For the first time since he walked into the courtroom, he goes still. No bluster, no raised voice, just silence, heavy and unfamiliar, settling over him like a truth he can no longer outrun. I study him the way a surgeon studies a wound right before the incision, calmly, critically, without flinching. The courtroom feels colder now, as if the air itself recognizes the shift in power. Sir, I say, each word measured. Silence is often the first honest thing a person offers. He stares at the desk. His fingers twitch once, twice before curling into fists he no longer seems confident using. The transformation is subtle but undeniable. His shoulders lowered, his gaze broken. The practiced posture of dominance slipping like a costume exposed under bright lights. The wife watches him with a strange mixture of distance and clarity, as though seeing him across a line she finally realizes she should never have crossed back over. I lean slightly forward. Your wife tried to leave. You admitted that you followed her. You controlled her, and you blamed her for your anger. He shakes his head, but the motion is weak, nothing like the forceful denial he might have attempted earlier. I did not mean to follow her. I just needed to know. Know what? I ask, my voice softer now, which somehow makes the question sharper. What would happen without you? His breath freezes. The wife blinks, her lips parting just slightly. Something unspoken passes through her. Recognition maybe, or grief. I was scared, he mutters, barely audible. Of what? I press. He swallows hard. Of losing control. The room tightens around that truth. It is not loud, but it hits harder than any shout he has ever thrown. I nod slowly. Control is not love. Control is fear disguised as authority. He winces, the words sinking deep. The wife's voice enters the quiet, soft but steady. You never asked what I was afraid of. His head lifts. The look in his eyes is complicated. Shame tangled with something almost innocent beneath it, like a child caught breaking something fragile. I thought, he starts, but the words break apart. I thought I was doing what was right. For whom? I ask. He does not answer. The silence stretches. It is not empty. It is full, crowded with realizations he never wanted to face. I finally release a slow breath. This is the consequence of living in an echo chamber of your own anger. You stopped hearing her long before she stopped speaking. The wife wipes a single tear with a thumb, not in sorrow, but in acknowledgement, as if she is reclaiming something piece by piece. I reach for the folder again, flipping past the earlier reports. Now, I say carefully, we need to talk about what you revealed without speaking. His brow furrows. I tap a page. Your movements on March 14th. A tremor runs through his hands. Because what you said today, I continue, confirms something your wife never knew but should have. His voice breaks before his words do. A single slip, half a sentence, half a confession drips into the room like ink spreading through water. No one moves, not even him. It is the kind of mistake that only happens when a lie finally gets tired of holding itself together. I narrow my eyes, sensing the shift, not in what he said, but in how he said it. Repeat your statement, I instruct. He hesitates. Hesitation has become a new pattern. I just wanted to know where she was, he mutters, avoiding his wife's gaze. I tap my pen. You said earlier she did not make it far. Those were your exact words. Now tell me, how would you know that if you did not follow her? A ripple runs through the audience. His chest rises and falls too fast. I assumed. No, my voice cuts clean. That was not assumption. That was memory. The wife's breath catches slow, shallow, as if each inhale reopened something she once forced shut. She turns her head toward him, but it is not the look she used to give him. Fearful, searching, bracing. This look is different. It is the look of someone listening to a truth she never wanted, but always suspected. He senses it. I was scared she would leave, he says, voice trembling. I needed to know if she was safe. Safe from whom? I ask. The question slices through the quiet. His lips part, but nothing comes out. Your wife did not know you were following her. I continue. She did not know you watched her leave, or tried to. The wife's eyes widen. Followed me, she whispers. He panics. It was not like that. I was worried, I repeat, leaning back. Yet you admitted earlier she never got far. He freezes. The wife's voice cracks open. Why were you watching me that night? What? Her hands tremble, not from fear, but from the shock of realizing pieces of her life were not hers at all. He stares at her, tears filling the edges of his eyes for the first time, not falling, just collecting like confession, waiting to spill. I thought you would not come back, he whispers. And you did not want her to, I clarify softly. He bows his head, shoulders folding inward, the facade collapsing into something raw and exposed. Not innocence, never that, but fear, the fear that drove everything he tried to disguise as anger. I let the silence stretch, letting the truth settle exactly where it must, directly between him and the woman he tried to hold in the tightest grip a heart can manage. Control masked as love. Then quietly, deliberately, I pick up a separate document from beneath the pile, unclipped, unopened, until now. The husband sees the header on the page, filed 2 days before March 14th, and his expression twists into something that is not panic anymore. It is dread. I lift the paper to the light. Sir, I say, would you like to explain why you filed a complaint against your wife before she ever tried to leave? He stares at the document like it is not paper, but a mirror reflecting something he never meant to show. His hands hover uselessly in front of him, trembling, not from anger this time, but from being seen. I hold the complaint between my fingers, its edges slightly curled from time. I read the date again, deliberately slow, letting the number bruise the silence. This was filed 2 days before March 14th, I say, before the night she tried to leave, before the night he claimed was a misunderstanding. The wife blinks, confusion forming before fear. You filed something about me. His breath hitches. It was nothing. It was just precaution. Precaution, I repeat, leaning back slightly. You filed a claim that your wife was unstable, violent, unpredictable. My eyes narrow. Before she ever did anything ever. The words hang there like shards of glass. The wife covers her mouth with a shaking hand. You thought I was violent. No, he blurts quickly. I had to. I thought maybe you would twist things, that you would leave and say things. Her voice cracks. Say things like what? The truth. He winces, shrinking further into himself. I just wanted to get ahead of it. I lift my chin. Ahead of what's up? Your wife's independence, her decision to protect herself, her right to walk away. He says nothing, which is finally the truth. The courtroom absorbs the moment in a collective, aching quiet. I lay the complaint flat before him. This was strategic. A preemptive narrative. You wanted a record that painted you as the victim before she ever found the courage to leave. His voice drops into a whisper. I was scared she would. The wife's shoulders fold inward as if the truth presses down on her physically. She shakes her head slowly, disbelief shattering through her expression. All this time, she murmurs, I thought I was losing you, but you were planning how to lose me. His eyes dart up, wide, unguarded, almost childlike. I thought if I looked like the wronged one, you would stay. Her tears fall silently. Not grief, recognition. I soften my tone, not gentle, but grounded. Sir, this is not love. This is fear, masquerading as protection. Control masquerading as care. He grips the podium with both hands, knuckles whitening. I did not want to look bad. I stare at him. You cannot pre-file innocence. The audience murmurs, the realization rippling through them. The wife leans back in her chair, hands trembling but steadying slowly, as if she is reclaiming a version of herself he never allowed her to see. I close the file gently, almost so. This complaint proves intent, not of violence on her part, but of control on yours. A long silence follows. The husband bows his head. And now, I say quietly, we will discuss what happened after you filed it. When control stopped working and fear took its place, he opens his mouth as if to speak, but the words fall apart before they reach air. Shame gets there first, filling the courtroom with a silence heavier than any confession. I study him with a gaze that feels less like judgment and more like truth itself, settling into place. You filed that complaint, I say, because you wanted to win a story that hadn't even been written yet. He doesn't lift his head. I just didn't want to be the bad guy. Then, I reply, you shouldn't have behaved like one. The sentence hits him square in the chest. He winces, not physically, but in a way that reveals something has cracked open inside him. The performative anger is gone. The practiced arrogance has evaporated. What remains is a man staring at the ruins of the narrative he built to protect himself from the truth. The wife watches him, not with anger, something more complex, something quieter, a grief for the version of him she tried to believe in, a grief for herself, too. I thought if I was the one who looked wronged, he whispers, she'd feel guilty and stay. The wife's breath catches, a soft, heartbreaking sound. You controlled me, she says, and for the first time, the statement is not fearful, it is factual. His eyes meet hers, full of an emotion he's never allowed himself to show in this room. Regret. I didn't want to lose you, but you did, she answers gently. Long before I walked out that door. He bows his head deeper. His fingers tremble against the podium like he's realizing for the first time that love cannot be held by force, only by truth, and he abandoned that long ago. I fold my hands. Sir, this is the cost of treating relationships like competitions. Eventually, you win so aggressively that you lose the very thing you were fighting for. He swallows hard. His voice shakes. I didn't know how to stop. Yes, I say. You did. I look toward the wife, because she told you through silence, through fear, through every apology she made just to keep the peace. The wife closes her eyes. A tear slides down her cheek, but her posture straight, steady, does not collapse. I used to think, she says softly, that if I changed myself enough, you'd stop being angry. He looks shattered by the admission. I never wanted you to change. You tried to make me smaller, she replies. That is the same thing. His shoulders slump. The fight drains out of him, not in defeat, but in reckoning. The courtroom watches as a man confronts not just his actions, but the person those actions revealed him to be. I let the silence breathe. Then quietly, what do you want to say to your wife right now? Without excuses, without deflection, he lifts his head, eyes red, voice barely holding. I'm sorry, he whispers. I didn't see what I was doing to you. I didn't want you to be afraid of me. The wife doesn't look away, but I was. He nods slowly. I know. I close the last folder with solemn finality. Apology acknowledged, I say. But in this courtroom, words are not enough. Consequences speak louder. His apology still lingers in the air, thin, trembling, too fragile to hold the weight of everything that came before it. The courtroom doesn't soften. Neither do I. This is not the moment for comfort. This is the moment for consequence. I sit back in my chair, the leather creaking softly beneath me. I study him with an expression not of anger, but of sober gravity, the look of someone who has seen too many lives twisted by the same patterns, the same excuses, the same slow corrosion of another person's spirit. Sir, I say, understanding what you've done is not the same as being accountable for it. He nods, but the motion feels mechanical, like his body is responding before his mind fully learns how to sit inside the truth. Beside him, the wife sits straighter, not out of bravado, but out of release. The fear that once curled her shoulders inward is loosening, unwinding slowly like a rope being untied after years of tension. Her hands rest in her lap, open, not clenched. I look to her. Ma'am, when did you first feel unsafe in your own home? The wife doesn't immediately answer. She turns her head slightly, thinking, not searching for permission, but for honesty. A long time ago, she finally says, before the shouting started, before the slamming doors. It was the look. Her voice softens. He had a way of looking at me that made me feel small. The husband shuts his eyes. His shoulders collapse inward. I didn't know, he whispers. You did, I correct gently. But you didn't care to understand what that meant for her. My words slice without raising their volume. The courtroom feels them. The audience breaths, slow, steady, heavy, absorbing the ache of the moment. The wife continues, voice steadier now. I kept telling myself he was stressed, that if I could just be better, quieter, easier, he would stop being angry. Her eyes meet mine, and for the first time, they don't flick toward him afterward. I didn't realize I was shrinking to fit inside his temper. The husband looks at her this time, not with defensiveness, not with justification, but with devastation. I never wanted you to feel that way. But I did, she replies quietly. And you didn't notice. I lean forward, elbows resting on the bench. That is the weight of what you've done, sir. Not just the slap, not just the shouting. The years she spent believing she was the cause of her own suffering. He swallows hard, eyes glistening, but unfocused. It is the posture of a man hearing the story of his marriage for the first time, told not from his own vantage point, but from the wreckage he left behind. I nod once decisively. This is not about punishing you out of anger. It's about acknowledging reality. And reality, I say firmly, has consequences. The wife exhales, slow, steady, reclaiming space in her own body. The husband stares at the floor, absorbing the impact of every word. I closed the final folder. It's time, I say, for this court to speak before the verdict falls. Ask yourself, when someone finally understands the damage they've done, should the consequences soften or stay just as strong? The gavel sits before me like a final heartbeat, still patient, waiting for the moment it will change everything. The courtroom holds its breath, not from fear anymore, but from expectation. Justice is no longer a possibility. It is a promise. I fold my hands, eyes steady, voice calm as the tide before it turns. This case, I begin, is not about anger that got out of hand. It is about a pattern of behavior that carved fear into a woman who deserved peace. The husband doesn't look up. He can't. His earlier arrogance has dissolved entirely, leaving behind a man confronting the consequences he spent years avoiding. The tremor in his hands has stopped, not because he's calm, but because he's resigned. The wife, sitting straighter than she has all day, watches me with a quiet kind of strength, not victorious, not vindictive, just present. Present in a way she hasn't been allowed to be in years. I continue. You justified your anger as stress, your control as protection, your surveillance as concern. I lean in, but every one of those excuses is a brick in a cage you've built around your wife. A hush falls deeper over the room. The husband nods weakly, a gesture of a man accepting a truth that scratches everything inside him. I know, he whispers. I do not soften. Not here. Good, because accountability begins with understanding, but it does not end there. I reach for the document on my bench, the final ruling. My voice carries with it the authority of years, the compassion of someone who has seen too much, and the firmness of a woman who refuses to let injustice stand. This court is ordering restitution, I declare, mandatory counseling for anger and control issues, and formal referral of all reports to the appropriate authorities for further review. The husband's breath stutters, not in defiance, but in surrender. The wife closes her eyes. A single tear slips down, but her face remains steady. This tear does not belong to fear or sadness. It belongs to release. I turn to her. You found your voice today. Do not lose it again. The wife nods, pressing a hand over her heart as if anchoring the moment inside herself. Then I shift my gaze to the husband. You may not have intended to break her spirit, I say, but intention does not erase impact. What matters is what you do from this moment forward. He nods, slowly. I will try to be better. Trying, I say, is the beginning, not the whole journey. The courtroom absorbs my words like scripture. I lift my gavel, not high, not dramatic, just enough. Let this ruling stand, I say, as a reminder that power misused always falls to truth. The gavel strikes, a sound not of anger, not of punishment, a sound of closure. The wife exhales, standing on legs that finally feel like they belong to her again. The husband remains seated, quiet, absorbing the weight of a world he built and shattered with his own hands.